What's going on YouTube? Is Donnie B all day, bringing you something a little different today. This knife is an auto open. Boop. It's 4 3/4 closed. It's 8 overall, giving it a 3 1/4 blade. This knife is a knockoff of one of the Benchmade's. I want to say 220, but I'm not exactly sure what it is. I have it, can't find it, but I'll look for it and see if I can pull it out. But this one is basically a copycat of that, and it was designed by the people over at Boker Knives, but it's produced by Magnum Knives, which means the design was done by a very good knife company. The actual building and construction was done by like a budget knife company. Magnum is known for doing some pretty cheap stuff, but it's cheap stuff that works, and I'm gonna give that to Magnum. As you can see by looking at the absolute beatdown on this blade, I have used this blade for a bunch of years. I had this as an everyday carry for a while, just because I liked the Auto Open, I liked the Tonto tip, I liked the serrade, and then I ended up getting the Benchmade, which is just so much better, and I carried that Auto Open for a while, and now I can't find it. But so let's go over some of this blade right here. It's obviously, it's an auto open, so there's no spine lock, there's no frame lock, there's no liner lock. The lock is right here. It's just push button. That is what closes it. You can't pull it open without pressing the button. It has a pretty good snap open. It's not the fastest, but you don't really need it to be that fast, especially when you're talking about, you know, you need to deploy quick. That's still pretty quick. It's a stainless steel, made in Taiwan, and again, most budget knives are built in budget knife making companies, and that's what helps make them budget knives. You might find an equal steel to a higher price knife, you know, but because it's made someplace that can make them cheaper, you have a cheaper price knife. So when you see that, most times you're going to think, well, then the knife isn't very good, because, you know, there's no way an auto open should be, you know, 30 bucks, or I don't even know what I paid for this, honestly. But you know what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with the quality, not all the time. Sometimes it's just where it's manufactured. It's the things it comes with, you know, the belt clip might be cheaper than some of the other ones, you know. The coating might be a little cheaper than some of the higher price stuff, but literally you're getting a knife that's going to perform just about the same, but at a cheaper price, because it's coming from a cheaper priced place. You know what I'm talking about. So jimping, we have it right here on the spine. It's actually good jimping. It's comfortable. The entire body is made of steel, so that's good. I've had this for a long time. Is there some wiggle in it? Yep, but you see that? It's not much. I mean, if I did it from here, you'll see that. You could see the light opening and closing barely, because there's not much wiggle. And you can see the abuse that's on this, or the wear on this. I use this a lot. And for it to only have that much wiggle, for it to be able to snap open the way it's doing, and I've never messed with the tensioner. I can make it faster if I wanted. I can make it slower if I wanted. It's pretty good. I mean, it's a Magnum. It's not something you think about when you're talking quality knives. You don't say, oh, you know what, a quality knife, let's look, a Magnum. Doesn't matter that Boker designed it. It's still a Magnum. And I have to say that I don't care if it's a Magnum or not, because this thing works. And so here's the best part about this knife. This knife is still sharp. I don't know if it's shave sharp anymore. Let's see. And it's more moving hair. Yeah, it's more like a comb at this point than a, let's see. I'm getting some hairs. You know, I mean, I don't know if you could even see it. Yeah, you've seen the hair. I'm getting some hairs. I'm working them off. There's still some here on the blade. And what's amazing about that, and this is really something to say, I'll show you what I use this knife for. I use this knife for striking ferro rod and breaking down magnesium. So I'll do this. Well, let me see if I can actually catch them for you. So I'll use the edge. A lot of times I'll use the serrade to catch. Yeah, you can see it on there. It's the magnesium. Then this is probably going to be stupid. Well, I don't think I'll be able to get it from this angle anyway. But then I'll use the edge to strike spark. I was going to do it on my hand, but then I started thinking to myself, it's most likely going to work because, you know, when you don't expect it to work, it's going to work. But I don't know if you could see that spark. Yeah, you could see that spark. At least you could hear it, or I don't know. Maybe you guys could smell it. Yeah, you smell that spark? But that's what I use this for. And anybody who's ever used any piece of steel to light any ferro rod knows that you're creating like a little arc, right? You know, and it's like when you spot weld. It's the same kind of thing. It's that high intensity heat that leaves boogers on a blade. You know, you get all those round little boogers and stuff. Those little welded pieces of steel right there are gonna just gather up on your blade. That's the only thing I use this knife for. I use this knife for ferro rods, for lighting fires. And this edge, guys, this edge is still good. How good is it? We're gonna find out. But I use this for ferro rods. Nobody uses their knife's edge for shaving off magnesium and then throwing spark with a ferro rod. Nobody does that because it's bad for a blade. However, this little guy right here has maintained and sustained and just keep on going. Obviously, the sharper the edge, the better the spark. So, you know, a lot of people try and find the 90 on the spine, and they do it that way because you don't care if your spine gets roughed up. I use the edge of this knife and it works fantastic. So let's go test this edge a little bit. Hold on a second. All right, so this edge, being is that it's a ferro rod striker, should not be as sharp as it is. And I do put it against a stone, but not often. Just when boogers collect on it, I'll just take them off with a stone. But I do nothing else to this edge than that. So let's see. So it was sharp enough to go through. You see a big tear in it? That's where the serrated part hit. You can actually see right there the shape of that right there. That's where the serrade hit it. The clean part of the cut is where the actual edge hit it. Again, ferro rod used edge, you know, knife edge. It shouldn't be as sharp as it is, but it is. So let's see what else we could do with it. All right, guys, when we think of choppers, we don't think of, you know, 3 1/4 inch blade folding knives. And there's a reason, because they're not made to chop. Duh. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna see if we can just chop away some wood. And if I hold it way at the end and I start going through, I'll tell you what, this little guy right here can chop. Now, would it take me 6.5 weeks and 4 pregnancies to get through that? Yep. But will it work? Hell yeah. It's chopping. It's not a chopper, but it sure is chopping. It's not a lighter, but it sure does light me a fire. Let's keep going. All right, I'm not sure how well you can see me, but you'll be able to see what's actually happening. What we're going to do is drop test. We're going to see how well the balance maintains. Now remember, because it is a lock blade, the weight is going to be heavy to the rear. However, what I found with this knife is that it doesn't matter. For some reason, this knife flies straight when you drop it. I mean, dead straight. And here's the thing, it's heavy in the rear. the balance is literally beyond the lug, right? It's beyond the lug, which is crazy. Hi guys, let me get you out of there. It's just crazy because normally the weight favors on a lockback. The weight is going to favor more toward the lug or toward the front. All the weight usually rides in the back. This one, the weight rides right in the center of the knife, and it allows it to travel pretty well. That's kind of impressive. But let me reset you guys up and start again here. All right, maybe that'll be a little better. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna toss it into the stump, and we'll see how the bite goes, and we'll see if anything loosens, which I've had this thing for so many years, I kind of know it's not going to. The bite is substantial. It is a Tonto tip, the armor-piercing tip of a Tonto. I can do that literally all day. This thing is fantastic for that. Let's take some of this vacuum cleaner hose, and we'll test it by slicing through. Now, it is a Tonto, so I can't usually go around is what I would normally do, but because this is straight edges, I have to make my own angle, which obviously is working since I literally did that while I was yapping at you guys. So here's my my edge that I only use for lighting a freaking ferro rod with, and I am cutting easily through thick vacuum cleaner hose. Guys, it's a Magnum, and I know you've seen these on eBay or wherever and thought, oh my god, that looks like a piece of crap. That's not worth the money. Who knows? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not to you, but I can say that this Magnum, Boker Design Magnum, that I paid almost nothing for and that I have had for years, is fantastic. I mean, fantastic. I've had this for years. It snaps open, it locks down tight, it's sharp as hell, and I fucking light a ferro rod with it every single time I need to light a fire. Literally, because when I light a fire, I like to use my ferro rod. Even in my own fireplace at home, it's just practice, practice, practice. And it still goes, guys. You know, you're not going to see that a lot. You're not going to see that everywhere. So let's see. Let's see here. Yeah. Easy freaking money. So can I still shave with it? Why not? I'm lighting fires with it. Shaving with the Serrade, I mean, you take out a lot of product when you shave with the Serrade. It really, really works. Now let's see here. Let's see what we can get. So not only does it throw the spark, but if I need it to, it'll make the fluff. It's just an all-round good auto open lockback. It's a Magnum. Guys, it's so hard to tell you how good this knife is by constantly being reminded of its brand name. And for all you knife snobs out there who hear the name Magnum and think, no, not going to do it, to have this be what it is, I'll tell you what, man. The only thing that actually really loosened on this knife with me over time has been the little belt clip. But honestly, who gives a shit? And it's just a little Allen key, a little tiny Allen key, and all I gotta do is tighten it. I just haven't cared enough to need to do so, and because it sits with all my fire starting stuff, it's not like I'm just carrying this around. When it's time to go out in the woods where I'm going to be using it to light, I just throw it in my bag. So it's not even something I'm carrying on pocket. This stays strictly by the fire. So when I'm out hiking or camping or whatever, once my gear sets down where I'm going to be lighting my fires and whatnot, this stays there. I don't take this with me when I walk away from my spot, because I don't want to lose it, knowing that this is what I'm going to be using to light my fire. And I can use other things, but this thing is crazy successful at giving me constant spark all the time, constant spark. So that's what it's for. I don't need the belt clip because I don't use it on the belt. So if it loosens, I don't care. If it falls off, I don't care. As far as the belt clip's concerned, non-ambidextrous, but we do have a lanyard hole, so you can literally tie it to your bag if you need to. If this is something that you planned on using for what I use it for, if you said, you know what, I want a folding knife, and you don't have to get the Auto Open, you can get any folding knife that made by made by Magnum is going to be the same steel that this one is. And if you want something that you know you can spend very little money on and get good spark for a very long time, I'll tell you what, go to your local wherever you're going to find it. I think I got this one at my local Army supply store, you know, like the Army Navy stores, and I got it years ago, and shit, man, for the last 3 years I've been using this as nothing but a spark producer for 3 years. Guys, I'll tell you what, and before that I had it for over 5 years, somewhere in there. So I'm looking at this thing being around 8 years old, maybe even older. It might be a lot older than that, I'm not sure. But I used this a lot even before I started using it as a fire starter. Now it is a Tonto tip, so if you need to pry, gently pry, and not because of a fear of breaking the tip. I don't have a fear of breaking that. It's still a lockback. This lug will spread if you pry too hard. When you have moving pieces, you have a weaker product. So let's go do one last thing, and you might know what it is. All right, so I'm pretty sure you guys guessed where I was going with this. Now, the weight on this is definitely not made for throwing. And I've never actually really thrown it outside of, you know, doing stuff that bounced, doing stuff like that, where you're just tossing it into wherever you're at. You know, you're throwing it down into the log or whatever. That's it. You know, for the time that I've had this with me the most was as a fire starter. So I've had it carrying more as that than I did as an everyday carry. But, so I never really threw it. So this is going to be difficult, but we're going to see if we can't at least get it to stick here. I'm Donnie B all day, damn it. All right. Yo, this is what I do. That got in there. All right, so the, I'm going to say the penetration wasn't that great, but the weight isn't either. But I did give it a pretty good toss. And that wasn't bad. My first time ever, guys, that was my first time ever throwing this. Voila. What do you want? Let's go take a look at it. Well, here it is. And you guys got to see how this thing performs. And I can't find a fault with it, you know, other than looking at the name Magnum. If that was the only fault I could find, then, you know, bravo to me. The thing has held up for a very long time in my ownership, and in all that time I finally gave it a throw, and it actually worked. Does that mean I'll be throwing this more often? No, don't care to, but it was nice to know that it landed on the first try. Otherwise that would have been one crappy video. So I'll tell you what, the serrate on this thing is very good. I've never sharpened the serrate. The edge, while it's a small actual edge, the edge is very effective. You know, and seeing as how I use it for what I use it for, the use I get out of this is a lot greater than it should be. It is, it has gone through a whole lot of really good usage. I'll tell you what, I'm not going to sit here and say I swear by the Magnum company, because I can't do that. I haven't tested enough of their stuff. But what I can do is tell you that I swear by this knife. If you're out and about and you find a Magnum Auto Open, Boker design, lockback, you know, I'm telling you guys, pick it up. Pick it up, buy it. You won't be spending a lot of money, but you'll be spending a lot of time getting to know it, because it's going to last a lot of time. I mean, you can't hide the wear. The wear on this thing is everywhere. This silver line here, that's not design, that's wear. I wore that sumbitch out. It's just, I mean, this is a used knife. I used the shit out of this knife, and it hasn't even blinked. You know, I'm just so impressed that I use it as a fire starter, and it's still as good as good. Is that even? That shouldn't be one of those things that's difficult to say. Good as it is should not be difficult. It's good, and you guys are gonna like it. So, all I can say about that, I'm Donnie B all day, and until next knife.